It's not poverty itself that traps us, but rather scarcity. Scarcity isn't just about a lack of resources. It affects our mindset and behavior, leading us into vicious cycles in both our daily lives and work. Scarcity, Why Having Too Little Means So Much, by Harvard economist Sendhil Mullainathan and Princeton psychologist Eldar Shafir. The authors introduce the concept of scarcity. Today, let's dive into the core ideas and examples in this book to understand how scarcity shapes our wealth and lives. What is scarcity? Simply put, scarcity is the feeling of not having enough of something. The resource in question could be money, time, energy, food, or even social connections. We've all experienced some form of scarcity in our lives, maybe rushing to meet a deadline, feeling overwhelmed by bills, or craving food when dieting. But scarcity itself isn't the real problem. The real issue is the scarcity mindset. When this mindset takes over, our attention becomes laser-focused on the immediate, urgent problem, and we easily overlook other important things. For example, when you're racing to meet a project deadline, you might neglect your health, family, or long-term planning. This scarcity mindset puts us in a cycle of anxiety and short-sightedness. We become obsessed with solving the immediate problem, but lose the ability to handle other tasks. You might, for instance, skip workouts and become less healthy because you don't have time, or you might make poor financial decisions because of a lack of money, or even miss out on spending time with loved ones because you're too busy. Scarcity isn't just an economic phenomenon, it's a psychological state. Whether we feel short on money, time, or social connections, this sense of scarcity deeply affects how we think. The book introduces a key concept called bandwidth. Here, bandwidth refers to our brain's capacity to process information, make decisions, and control impulses, similar to how a computer's processor has limited capacity. When the scarcity mindset dominates our thoughts, it acts like a background program that's constantly running and consuming our bandwidth. This leads to a reduced ability to focus, increased impulsiveness, and a higher chance of making poor decisions. For example, people in financial trouble may take out high-interest loans, not because they lack intelligence, but because the scarcity mindset is draining their cognitive bandwidth, making it hard to plan for the long term. Similarly, busy people often suffer from time scarcity, causing them to make poor decisions. You may feel like you're always busy tackling tasks, but this busyness leads to tunnel vision, where you only see the tasks in front of you and lose sight of more important long-term goals. However, the scarcity mindset isn't all bad. The book also talks about something called the focus dividend. What does this mean? When we feel like we lack a resource, our brain automatically enters a highly focused state, zeroing in on the urgent task at hand. This focus can lead to increased productivity in the short term. For instance, when you only have 1 hour to complete a task, you might find yourself working with incredible efficiency. That's the focus dividend in action. Sounds great, right? The scarcity mindset makes us more focused and our work efficiency improves. But here's the catch. This kind of focus comes at a cost. When we intensely focus on one thing, our brain naturally ignores other important matters. For instance, while you're busy with work, you might forget to see a doctor, call a family member, or even pay a bill. Over time, this tunnel vision can come with serious consequences. The term tunnel vision is easy to understand. It's like looking at the world through a narrow tube. You can only see the small spot at the end of the tube, while everything outside of it is out of view. When we're in a scarcity mindset, our brain automatically enters tunnel vision, focusing only on the immediate crisis. For example, when you're buried in a project, you might ignore other important but non-urgent things like health, relationships, or long-term planning. This tunnel vision is one of the main negative effects of the scarcity mindset. It prevents us from seeing the bigger picture and keeps us fixated on immediate concerns. The book describes an interesting experiment where participants were asked to remember either a 2-digit or 7-digit number. Afterward, they were taken to a room filled with snacks and observed to see what they would choose. Those who had to remember a 7-digit number were more likely to choose cake over fruit. This shows that when our cognitive load is high, we're more prone to making impulsive, short-sighted decisions. Have you ever noticed that when you're extremely busy or financially stressed, your brain just doesn't seem to work as well? It's not your imagination. Scientific research supports this. The scarcity mindset can actually lower our cognitive ability. As we saw in the experiment, scarcity hogs our bandwidth, temporarily lowering our IQ. The book mentions a fascinating study where low-income participants were presented with a financial problem, such as needing to pay a $3,000 car repair bill. The results showed that these participants performed significantly worse on cognitive tasks when under financial pressure, compared to when they weren't. In contrast, higher-income participants handled the same problem much better. This shows that the feeling of scarcity can temporarily impair our cognitive abilities, making it harder to solve complex problems. This decline in cognitive function doesn't just affect financial decisions, it impacts our decision-making in other areas as well. For example, when we're swamped with work, our productivity actually decreases because our brain is overwhelmed by the scarcity mindset and can't process information efficiently. The scarcity mindset doesn't just make us short-sighted, it can also trap us in a vicious cycle. Poor people, because they lack money, often make poor financial decisions, like taking out high-interest loans, that make them even poorer. Busy people, because they don't have enough time, neglect their health, which eventually causes their productivity to drop, making them even busier. Eaters, because they focus too much on food, end up overeating and failing to stick to their diets. This is what we call the scarcity trap. Once we fall into the scarcity trap, it's hard to escape. The scarcity mindset keeps increasing our cognitive load, leading us to make more mistakes in the future. For instance, when you're short on money, you might choose to take out a payday loan to solve your immediate problem, but this only worsens your financial situation in the long run. Similarly, when you're constantly busy, you might ignore your health, which eventually leads to decreased productivity and even more busyness. So, is there a way to avoid the scarcity trap? The answer is yes. The book introduces two important concepts: slack and trade-offs. Slack means leaving some room for unexpected events when resources are abundant. For example, if you have enough time slack, you won't panic when an urgent task pops up. Similarly, if you have some financial slack, an unexpected expense won't throw you into financial chaos. Trade-offs, on the other hand, involve managing resources wisely when you're in a state of scarcity. For example, when you don't have enough time, you need to prioritize the most important tasks rather than trying to juggle everything. Making trade-offs is key to coping with scarcity. It helps us make the smartest choices with limited resources. We live in a fast-paced world where many people love multitasking. You might be attending a meeting, responding to emails, and thinking about other tasks all at once. We often feel like this saves time and improves efficiency, but in reality, multitasking isn't as effective as we think. The book talks about the tunnel burden, which refers to the increased cognitive load we experience when trying to handle multiple tasks at once. This, in turn, makes us less efficient. When our brain is occupied with several tasks, the efficiency of each task declines. You might feel like you're getting a lot done in a short time, but the quality of each task is likely compromised. Tunnel vision makes us overlook these hidden costs, ultimately causing us to spend more time and energy in the long run. The scarcity mindset doesn't just affect our work and financial decisions, it seeps into all aspects of daily life. For example, when we're caught in a scarcity mindset, we're more prone to temptation and impulsive decisions. Eaters are more likely to crave high-calorie foods when dieting. Lonely people are more likely to get hooked on social media, and busy people, when pressed for time, are more likely to neglect healthy habits and opt for fast food over nutritious meals. These behaviors stem from the impact of bandwidth depletion. It makes it harder for us to control our impulses and make rational choices. For instance, when you're under a lot of work pressure, you might indulge in unhealthy foods or binge-watch TV late into the night. While these short-sighted behaviors may bring temporary relief, they only lead to bigger problems in the long run. The impact of the scarcity mindset is especially severe for those living in poverty. Poor people don't just lack money, they also lack bandwidth. The book explains that the brains of people in poverty are often consumed by the scarcity mindset, making it difficult for them to focus on long-term planning. Most of their cognitive bandwidth is spent tackling immediate financial crises, and over time, this mindset only deepens their poverty. Research shows that poor people tend to perform worse in financial decision-making compared to wealthier individuals. This isn't because poor people are less intelligent, it's because their minds are preoccupied with scarcity, and the burden on their bandwidth makes it harder for them to make sound decisions. For example, a poor person might take out a payday loan to relieve immediate financial stress, but this decision often worsens their financial situation in the long run. Given how deeply the scarcity mindset affects the poor, how can we help them? First, we need to recognize that poor people make bad decisions, not because they lack motivation, but because they lack bandwidth. Therefore, helping them increase their cognitive bandwidth is crucial. Providing simple, practical training, setting up effective alert systems, and helping them prepare for the future are all good strategies. We also need to be more understanding of their mistakes and recognize the challenges they face in their scarcity-driven lives. The book notes that poor people often miss important opportunities, like failing to enroll in training programs or pay bills on time, not because they don't care, but because their minds are consumed by scarcity, making it difficult to manage their lives effectively. Whether you're poor or not, Slack is an essential tool for dealing with scarcity. Slack means leaving some extra room in your resources to handle unexpected events. For example, when you have time Slack, you can handle last-minute tasks without scrambling. Similarly, if you have financial slack, an unexpected expense won't throw your budget into disarray. Slack not only helps us handle emergencies, but it also prevents us from falling into the firefighting trap. The firefighting trap happens when we're in a scarcity mindset and only focus on urgent crisis after crisis, neglecting long-term important tasks. As a result, our workload and stress pile up, and we end up in a never-ending cycle of putting out fires. The firefighting trap is a specific form of the scarcity trap. It refers to the tendency to focus only on immediate, urgent problems while ignoring long-term priorities when we're in a scarcity mindset. For example, when a project deadline is looming, we might work overtime to finish it, but neglect other, more important work. This behavior creates a snowball effect, increasing our workload and stress until we're stuck in an endless cycle of firefighting. The key to breaking out of the firefighting trap is managing slack wisely. We need to leave ourselves enough room to handle unexpected events while also learning to allocate energy to long-term important tasks, not just the urgent ones. Breaking the scarcity trap isn't easy because the scarcity mindset often leads us to make short-sighted decisions that ignore future costs. For example, when we're short on cash, we might take out a payday loan to solve an immediate problem, but this only worsens our future financial situation. Similarly, when we're busy, we might neglect our health, which leads to decreased productivity and even more busyness. To break this vicious cycle, we need to start by creating slack and learning to leave buffer space when resources are plentiful to avoid falling into the scarcity trap. For example, when you have enough time, plan your future tasks in advance so that when emergencies arise, you can handle them calmly rather than getting stuck in the firefighting trap. Similarly, when you have financial slack, you can avoid being thrown into financial trouble by unexpected expenses. The book also explores the relationship between scarcity and behavioral economics. Behavioral economics shows that poor and wealthy people value resources differently. Poor people are more cautious with every dollar because their resources are so limited, whereas wealthy people don't spend as much mental energy on small expenses. This difference is rooted in how the scarcity mindset affects our thinking. Because of bandwidth depletion, poor people can't make financial decisions as rationally as wealthier individuals. Behavioral economics points out that the scarcity mindset not only affects our decisions, but also distorts our perception of value. For example, a poor person might see a $50 expense as a huge cost, while a wealthy person might barely notice it. To truly escape the scarcity trap, the most important thing is to change our mindset. Scarcity isn't a personal flaw. It's a consequence of our environment. When we're in a state of scarcity, our brain automatically shifts into tunnel vision, focusing on immediate urgent problems and ignoring other, more important matters. So, breaking free from the scarcity mindset is our only hope of escaping the scarcity trap. By managing slack wisely and optimizing our use of bandwidth, we can better cope with scarcity and make more rational decisions. For example, in financial management, we can create budgets and savings plans to prepare for the future and avoid financial crises caused by unexpected expenses. Similarly, in time management, we can allocate tasks wisely to avoid falling into the firefighting trap and ultimately improve our productivity. Scarcity itself isn't scary. The real danger lies in the scarcity mindset. The scarcity mindset consumes our bandwidth, making us short-sighted and preventing us from planning for the long term. Whether it's time, money, or other resources, managing slack wisely and optimizing bandwidth use are the keys to overcoming scarcity. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.